My family and I used to live in a rough neighborhood when I was a kid. One night, it was just my mom, my 2 siblings, and myself at home, and my dad was gone on a business trip. Around midnight, someone started knocking on our door. My mom woke up, went to the front door, and asked who it was. No one answered. She thought that maybe it was some kids playing ding-dong ditch, so she went back to bed. About 30 minutes later, again, someone starts knocking. She gets up and peers through the side window to see if she can spot anyone out there, but nobody is there. She starts to worry, so she goes back to the room, grabs my dad's double barrel, and sits in the living room in the dark, waiting. Then, more knocking. My mom begins shouting at whoever it is that she's going to call the cops and that if anyone tries to come in, she would shoot them. At about 2 a.m., the police finally show up and do a quick search outside of our house while we wait inside. After the search, they tell my mom that they had found a piece of barbed wire about 4 feet long next to the front door and asked if it belonged to my mom. She said that it wasn't hers and asked why. The cop told her it belonged to whoever was knocking on the door. That they were planning on strangling my mom with the barbed wire when she opened the door to see who was knocking. They said that she was very smart to not open the door to see who was out there. Otherwise, it could have cost her her life. The cops said that they would patrol the neighborhood until morning and do a thorough investigation once there was daylight. That morning, as they were searching around the house, they found footprints leading around to the back of the house and up to my bedroom window. They also found nicks in the window sill where the person was trying to pry it open to break in, but failed. My mom always suspected that it was this one neighbor because he would always stare at my mom through his curtains and wasn't very friendly. He also knew when my dad wasn't home, since he knows what vehicle he drove. We moved out of that house after that. My dad lives in an apartment, and one day he came home to cops outside his door. It was very early, 5 or 5:30 a.m., and my dad said yes, of course, invited them in and made them breakfast. They asked him some questions about his neighbor across the hall. Just general stuff like, have you noticed anything weird, etc. He looks like a well-put-together 30-ish-year-old businessman. My dad lives in higher-end apartments, so this is what everyone looks like. Nothing weird or out of the ordinary. The cops go on to explain that a 30-year-old woman is missing and was last seen by a security camera walking into the building with this man. But they never had any footage of her, or him for that matter, leaving the apartment. The cops stay outside and monitor the apartment until 5 p.m. that night, when they finally get a warrant. They notice a shower curtain missing and golf clubs scattered on the bedroom floor. They end up arresting the guy. Fast forward 3 weeks, and the cops find her body about 45 minutes south in the woods on the side of a bike trail. Some runner stumbled upon her. Nothing more was released on what state she was in. Then, about 2 months ago, they found more tapes as the investigators went back to look at them. They discovered the man leaving the apartment with his golf bag, but like I said earlier, all of his clubs were in his room. I'm sure many people have put 2 and 2 together. A full-sized woman wouldn't fit in a golf bag, but that's how he got her out. His trial is coming up. As of right now, he claims it was an accident and he panicked and tried to hide it since he has a girlfriend. So I'm in my early 20s and female. I moved out on my own for the first time about 2 years ago. I haven't had much to do with any of my neighbors and have always been slightly uneasy about the fact that no one around here is looking out for me. If anything seems off, no one would notice or do any investigating to make sure I'm all right. Last year, I noticed a man constantly walking his dog in the grass area behind my house. This isn't unusual to see, it is a common area for residents here. His dog is super cute and my cat likes to play with it through the glass door out back. They would just chase each other back and forth and put their paws up on the glass and such. Real cute stuff. One day I was outside and his dog came running up to my porch with glee to get pets and say hi to his kitty friend. This is the first time I actually spoke to this neighbor. We'll call him Mark. So, Mark seemed decent enough and we got along just fine. We started hanging out pretty often in a short time period because I'm a smoker and he was letting his dog out all the time in the summer, so we ran into each other quite often and would spend an hour or more after work most days talking. This lasted for a couple weeks. I gave him my phone number and was happy to have a friend in my complex. I will say he was clearly very interested in either having a romantic relationship with me or at least being butt buddies. He said this quite a lot. Not butt buddies, but you get what I'm saying. I was very honest with him that I wasn't interested in either at all and had to tell him this quite often. Frankly, I was getting rather irritated that this came up several times every time we spoke. He rather quickly was trying to get me in his house, from the first time we talked until the last. He offered multiple times, every time I saw him. I always said no and blamed it on me being COVID cautious. He quickly got tired of that excuse and invited himself to my house as well. I always said no. One day, I was outside smoking and he came out with a bottle of wine and a couple of glasses, saying I had to try this stuff because it's delicious. I instantly noticed that the seal is broken, screw cap bottle, but doesn't seem like anything was drank. The bottle was filled to the brim, which I also thought was a little odd because usually wine isn't filled to the tippy top like that. So he pours a couple glasses and doesn't drop a beat in telling me to take a drink. I feel very uncomfortable, but didn't want him to feel like he was being accused of anything when he's just trying to be a nice, friendly neighbor. After all, he poured himself a glass of this very same stuff, right? Well, my mama still raised me better than that, so I totally faked a sip and said it was good. After any sentence that either of us said, he would tell me to take a drink. I told him I don't really drink, so I'm pacing myself, but did say that I noticed he hadn't drank anything and to please go ahead. He didn't reach for his glass right away, but in the middle of speaking, he reached for his cup and knocked it over, spilling the wine into the grass. He brushed it off rather quickly and told me it was my turn to drink now. But I said, "But you still haven't drunk anything. You spilled your drink. Pour yourself another glass. I don't want to drink alone." He still didn't drink anything. He did tell me a few moments later to drink mine. I told him that he needed to catch up, and we basically just kept doing that in circles. He reached for his glass again, and guess what? Spilled it again. Wine is all over the grass now. Then he tells me to drink again. At this point, I'm done. Too many red flags are screaming at me to get the hell out. I'm honest with him that this seems really sketchy and that I didn't trust the drink because he's refusing to drink any himself but is way too eager for me to drink. He told me he was just clumsy or taking it slow because he doesn't drink a lot, but he has seen me having friends over taking shots and drinking beers and wine, so he knows I'll handle it better than him. Yet another red flag. So he's been watching me. Huh. I think it's important to mention that our complex is huge. He used to work here and knows the maintenance crew. And he doesn't live particularly near me. He's about half a block away from me and can't see my window or yard from where he lives. There's also different common areas closer to him where he could walk his dog. So I told him that I'm flat out not drinking anything because of how this all seemed. He once again pours himself a glass and once again spills it. There isn't much left in the bottle at this point. I pour the remaining wine in his glass and tell him to drink with me on 3. We raise our glasses, and to my amazement, he actually takes a drink, and I spilled mine into the grass. Oops. He comes out about 2 nights later while I was smoking and instantly starts complaining to me that I wouldn't date him or have sex with him, and he doesn't know why all girls are like this. He starts getting really loud, shouting at me, asking me what the problem with him is, and that I won't do these things. I told him that I've been honest with him since we met, and that I'm not interested in that, and that it's not him specifically, I'm just honestly not interested in that from anyone right now. He still shouted at me and started complaining about his ex and her dog. Yes, her dog. Then proceeded to tell me that he used to abuse the shit out of that dog, and went into detail about how he wouldn't feed or water it because it used the bathroom in the house, and how he would kick it really hard. I was horrified at this point, especially considering this whole time he's telling me this, he's playing fetch with his little dog. His dog always seems scared of him, and I had even pointed that out in the past, and he said that his dog's previous owner was abusive, so he's just very scared and distrusting. The dog was always very excited to see me though, and would cuddle up to me and stay by me, so I always thought I was extra special. But with that knowledge, I just think the poor guy is currently in an abusive household. I was so done with this guy that I just cut him off and said I needed to go because my friends were waiting on me. He sent me several messages of gibberish when he was outside. He would just blow my phone up with, "Hey, hi, LOL, my name, hi, random bunches of letters," and it would just keep going. He's texted me telling me he knows I'm home because he's seen me walking around or that my car's in the lot. He'll throw his dog's toys on my porch. I think he's trying to get my attention to come outside because of the dog being cute. He'll just stand outside my porch for hours. It's all cold and rainy and snowy these days, so it's even creepier. I think in his mind, since I'm a smoker, I'll come out eventually. Silly him though, because I just go to the front when I see him out there. He said several things to me before the wine fiasco went down that were red flags. I figured it might be a language or cultural difference though, because English is the third language he's learned and America is the third country he's lived in. I guess the moral of the story is to just trust your gut. He still bothers me, and as I said, we only spoke and hung out for a few weeks in the summer of 2020. My last message from him was last night. He asked me what he had done wrong and if I felt disrespected in any way. I have not spoken to him since he screamed at me about not sleeping with him, sandwiched with admitting horrible animal abuse. I thought about answering his text with the brutal truth about how twisted and creepy he presented himself and how uncomfortable he made me feel. But I didn't want to give him any ideas on how he should improve. Stay smart, folks. Don't drink things from people if the seal is broken. He was definitely trying to drug me. I do also have a stun gun, pepper spray, and a handgun. I am extremely reluctant to use the gun on a person, but I do have training on the weapon. I do bring the pepper spray with me every time I go outside now, even if it's just to take the garbage out or pop into my car for a second. What a story. I hope she's doing well. My dear, you have a creepy neighbor. Thanks for watching. Stay vigilant, friends.